Welcome to Girl About the Globe, a podcast for you, the solo female traveller, empowering women to travel solo with maximum adventure, minimum impact. Okay, welcome to a dose of inspiration for the solo traveller. Today's inspiring interview is with Michaela Fatanal, founder of Rocky Travel, a website for travelling Australia like a local, and the author of Your Australia Itinerary, the ultimate guide for female solo travellers. Hi Michaela, thanks for joining us today.
Hi Lisa, thank you for the invite. Very pleased to be here.
You're welcome. I was really keen to speak to you because Australia is such a huge destination for solo travellers, especially women travelling by themselves. It's also one of the countries that I recommend as the perfect choice for somebody who hasn't travelled solo before. So what's the draw of Australia for you? Because I know you first went there in 2004. Can you remember when you first landed in Australia?
Oh yes, definitely. My first solo trip was in 2004, and this was while I was taking a gap year. I was an expat in Germany, and I was planning to go back to Italy. So Australia was on my bucket list for, I think it had been for over 10 years. But I never managed to go because, you know, when you're working, you have 3-4 weeks holiday a year. Mm-hmm. I thought it's too short for Australia. I want to have a couple of months at least. So that was the perfect timing for me. And I planned my trip a few months ahead of that. And I was, fascinated by friends going there. I was inspired by their stories. And I thought this is the country, for myself, because I love spaces, empty spaces. I love nature. I love wildlife. And I also heard a lot about freedom. People have a very, very close relation to nature, and they really value their freedom. And they lead a very, very natural way, basic life. Even in cities, people are very relaxed compared to other cities in Europe or in the States. So I was very much attracted by this country, and I managed to do this in 2004, where I was turning 40 at that time, and for me it was, also a very important day, very important year. And yes, and this is how I did it. Yeah, I just packed my backpack with 10 kilograms and I went. Wow. It wasn't my first solo trip. It was actually my second long trip on my own. And yes, this was the beginning of my love story with Australia.
So how did that, looking back now, how did that trip change you?
I think actually the first trip was the best one. And for different reasons, because I really cut off from everything. I left all my devices, all my smartphones, everything was at home, and I just went. And it was just me, my backpack, my camera. That the only thing. And I was very much immersed in this trip. And I was, the first trip is probably opening so many paths and many challenges as well. But it was the first impression that gave me Australia was immense, and was whereas there have been other trips where I had problems, I had issues to solve. This was a very, very personal trip, where I was just with myself, and I don't know, it was very, very different from all the others. First trip was, how do you say, setting like a line and saying, okay, I know that I love traveling by myself, because this was a long trip, 2.5 months, but it also gave me this impression that Australia was the type of country that I like, because it's very, very safe, and I don't have to struggle with okay, I have to be careful what to do, where to go all the time, like in other countries. And for me, that's a very, very important aspect of traveling alone. I want to feel safe. I want to feel good with my environment, and that was, one of the most important aspects of traveling alone in Australia.
It's good that you say that actually, because on your website you include female solo travel tips. And I just wondered what your opinion was on, or how do you think traveling as a woman alone differs from traveling as a man? Do you think women need to be more vigilant?
Definitely, they are. Even in a country like Australia, you have to be vigilant because you never know. You never know, you might land to the, a loony type or whatever if you are in a bar and, you just get an invite to go out with this guy or whatever. And you have to, you have to trust your instinct and say, is it safe? How do I feel? Is it a guy I can trust? Is it a situation I can trust? And you really have to know what you're doing, even in a safe country like Australia. So obviously, for a male, it's different because a guy he never thinks about that because he's not going to be assaulted. I mean, unless you are in a country like where they want to rob you. A guy is more relaxed in that respect. So apart from the destination, which is I think a male or a female, they have the same, they are attracted by the same things. But a guy is more. He tends to to plan without thinking, oh, is it safe or is it not safe? He's more relaxed about this aspect, and that's the only different point in choosing your destination, choosing where to stay, with whom you're going to spend your time. So it's the only big difference for a woman.
Did you say that you had a few challenges as well? You said when you first went, it was absolutely great, and then you had a few challenges. Was that transportation issues or people?
Well, not really challenges in sorting out things, but challenges that you are alone. Every time when I'm alone, I'm encountering a situation where I say, oh gosh, am I safe here? What I'm doing? And I have every time, landing in a place where there is no one there. I'm staying here overnight just by myself and there is none here, just completely alone. And sometimes you feel, oh gosh, what I'm doing. Okay. But then it's just your mind wandering off.
Yeah,
And
it's that fear, isn't it?
yes, it's not, there is no real danger. And I remember once in Australia on a small island called Kangaroo Island, I got there and when I saw my accommodation, I said, oh gosh, what I'm going to do here tonight? I'm staying on my own in this place. And I remember meeting a travel couple from Canada, they're famous couple, travel couple. And she was saying to me, Michael, how are you doing this tonight? I said, oh, yes, I don't know. I'm just thinking. But anyhow, and when I got back to my accommodation, then I was just trying to think, well, but just focus on the real facts. There is nothing around here, just the tourist office, information office, which was closed, obviously, from 5 p.m. was closed, none was around. And then a camping site, but it was far away. But anyhow, there are people over there. And then there are just local animals. That's the only people who are around me. So what I'm afraid of,
Yeah.
But we probably cannot switch off, from thinking, oh, maybe there are some guys around or some people around that want to harass you. But it's not going to happen. It's just in our mind. And so we have to get rid of these thoughts because your mind is always telling you things that are not really, realistic sometimes. But you have to overcome this fear. And I think when you travel alone, it's sometimes better than being, with someone who is even more fearful than yourself because then when you are by yourself, you have to find this courage and you have to take out all your strength and say, okay, I'm here, I'm alone, and I'm going to go through. And I want to feel good. You cannot possibly stay awake all night because you have the day ahead is planned with so many things. So you have to be fit. So I think you learn so much. You learn so much, and every time you have small little challenges that you have to go through, and you learn something. You learn how good you are, and you will be surprised because you find out that you are better than what you think, that you are dealing with situation in ways that you even don't expect it, that you are so capable of. it's a matter of learning, learning about yourself, how to relate to situation, how to tackle situation. Yeah.
Exactly, it's mastering your mind, isn't it? I know that
Yes.
before I went to Australia, one of the things that I knew about Australia obviously was the massive creepy crawlies and all the poisonous insects that could harm you. And I got there and I hardly saw any, to be honest. And I know maybe for some women travelling by themselves that might deter them from going to the country. But I just wondered what your experience of poisonous animals and creepy crawlies was in Australia.
I must tell you, Lisa, that I'm a very fearful person. I don't like these crawlies too. When I see a spider, the funny thing is that when I went to Australia, I stopped thinking about it. And I don't know how it happened. So when I'm in Europe, if I see a small spider, I have to get out of the room. And but when I'm there, I just stop thinking about it. And unless I see one, but I don't think about it. I focus on other things, and that's important because if you don't think about it, you're not going to stumble upon one. So it helps you a lot. You have really to just stop thinking about it. And I don't know how it happens. Probably because when I'm in Australia, I'm focused on, enjoying the environment, enjoying nature, wildlife.
Exactly.
You don't think about negative things. Oh, okay, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. And that's how you feel. How you feel, it's just steering your mind as well, and that's very important. There are many people that are afraid of making these encounters in Australia, but you just don't think about it. Just think about the positive things that you are gonna see.
Yeah, exactly. In my personal experience, I've encountered more insects and creepy crawlies in other countries anyway. So to me,
Yeah.
that's not an issue for Australia. But what I was going to ask you is, what do you think? What are the main attractions that draws women to Australia? Obviously, you've got all the outdoor lifestyle, and or what we know of it is the outdoor lifestyle and the barbecues on the beach, and everybody's into sports. Is there anything else that you would say would draw women to Australia?
Yes, I would say that women who go to Australia, I think they also want to stay to enjoy some time for themselves because that's the best country, I think, for doing so. You really get the chance of staying by yourself in many different ways, either in cities or in rural areas, in the outback areas, at the beach, and you can really, just cut off from your previous world and say, I want to go there for maybe a few weeks or a month, but just to want time for myself. I want to go through different things. I want maybe change career or change about, you think about changing your life or going through a different path or starting a new life. And also for thinking about yourself, what you want from life. This is also what I did in 2004. I was very much, thinking what I'm going to do next. And I think Australia has this power of bringing so much harmony into your so much balance into your life because it's not contaminated place, very very natural place, and gives you a lots of power, lots of strength. And yes, I think that's one of the main reasons why women choose Australia, for finding themselves, learning from themselves, learning what they want to do, learning what they can do. Personal growth, I would say, yes.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, because Australia is so vast, with the travelling distances, it just gives you that reflection time, doesn't it? If you're sat on a train for hours or a bus for hours and just watching landscape as you go past and seeing the nature, it's a perfect country for getting in touch with who you are again and reflecting on things and thinking about your life. So I totally agree with you about the personal growth there.
Yes, definitely. You had so much time to relax and think about the past, the present, the future, and you have the choice. You can share this with people you just met along your way. You just can stay on your own, and the freedom, the high freedom that you have there is very valuable for every woman, because I think that they really respect women, and as a woman, you are approached by men, by everyone. As a solo traveler, you are approached everywhere. But I've noticed that there is a high respect. Even men, when they approach you, they're very, very discreet. If they offer you, if they just invite you for a drink, they just want to, just to chat to you. But they're never really, just making pressure. Oh, they want to invite you or whatever. So you really feel very safe also in this respect. So it's very nice. It's a very nice feeling,
Yeah.
and they're very helpful. I find Australia very helpful people. They don't expect you to ask them for tips or advice. They just come to you and say, "Do you want me to help, or do you need anything?" And so that's a very, even for women who are not so talkative, or they don't they shy away, they don't like to talk to strangers. I think it's a very positive way of striking up a conversation, because they do it,
Yeah.
and that's something that I really appreciated as well. When I was there on my first trip, I noticed that they were so kind, and they want you to feel good. They want you to feel good in their country, and
Yeah.
and so that's something that I really appreciated.
I found that as well. I find them very warm and very casual and laid back, and with a lust for life as well, and it's just extremely friendly. It's just such a lovely country to go to by yourself. So, would you say that it's really easy to meet people in Australia?
Very easy. I would say, on the contrary, it's very difficult to be on your own. Yeah, yes, it is. Well, sometimes I had to say no, thank you, because I wanted to be by myself, But I really understand this point, because people, they cannot possibly know whether they might feel, oh, you feel lonely. So they are very proactive in this way. They ask you, do you want to spend time with us? You want to join us? Even, when you sit at a table, you have your dinner. I remember one evening I came in this place. It was the Outback. I was really tired. And I wanted, just to have my dinner in peace and go to bed. And I remember just I was sitting down and just starting to eat, and there was a couple just was looking, who is talking to me? And then they said, hi, hi, do you want to join us? I didn't want it to be rude and say no, because, it's, when two people say to you, join us for dinner. So I just moved over to their table, and I just joined. And they were so nice. And we just got into conversation and say, if you come to our place, you can stay at our place. Just offering to stay at their place. And I just met them. So I found that so really fantastic, really. It's something that I really appreciate. Then you have to make a choice if you want to say yes or no. But just the fact that people are so kind and offering this all the time, it makes you feel really good, because I have no problem being alone, to be by myself. But there are women, they prefer, having someone around all the time, or most of the time. So it's really good. So you don't have to make anything. You just let people talk to yourself,
Yeah.
approach you.
Yes,
Yes.
you're perfect.
Yeah.
So, so how much time realistically? I know that you backpacked for a couple of months, and you said on your website it mentions seeing the real side of Australia in 3 to 5 weeks. So, for somebody going for the first time, how much time would you recommend for them to see Australia?
Well, I would say 4 weeks is the minimum. 5 weeks is really ideal.
Okay.
I know that many people they cannot put together so much time, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but I would discourage women going for a couple of weeks the first time. You can probably go for a couple of weeks, maybe on your second or third trip, but not on your first, because on the first trip, you really need at least 4 weeks. And that's something that you have to plan. If you cannot make it now, you will make it maybe next year, but you have to try to put at least 4 weeks together, because you travel a long way. It takes only one day to get there from almost everywhere in the world. So
Yeah.
And you have to also to think about the cost, because a flight is going to cost you at least, I don't know, 800 sterling pounds, 1,000 euro, or 1,000 US dollar at least. I mean, I'm not talking about peak season. So you have to calculate also the cost of traveling to Australia. Doesn't make sense to go for a couple of weeks. And then you really have to enjoy slow travel, and prefer slow travel instead of putting too many destinations into 4 weeks and just, going from one place to the next, and just spending more time in the end traveling from A to B instead of enjoying the places and really get a feel of the place.
What would you say? What would you say are the most popular cities for somebody going first time? Because I know Darwin and Perth are just miles away from Sydney, Melbourne, and in Adelaide. So, what would you say is if you were going for the first time, which cities would you?
I would obviously, Australia is big, and you have to make a choice. Do you want to go to the eastern or to the western?
Yeah.
Because really, you have to draw like a line in between the eastern coast and the western. And I would say people and women also, they feel more attracted to the eastern coast for the first time.
Yeah.
Definitely, Sydney and Melbourne are two cities that must be on your list. And depending, because everyone is different. There are people they love cities, and there are people they don't. They just say, "Oh, if I go to Australia, I want to enjoy nature. I don't really care about cities, or I just want to be a couple of days there."
Sure.
So depending what your focus is, maybe you just plan a couple of days in each city. But I would say average 3 or 4 days are the minimum time for each of Melbourne and Sydney. Three days is the minimum, because they're big cities. They have so much to offer, and I wouldn't plan less than 3 days each for each town. But if you decide the eastern part is what attracts you more, because you have more beaches, it's more active, then I would go from Sydney and decided to go either north to the North Tropical Queensland if you were attracted by water sports or beach lifestyle, and then to Melbourne and plan road trips. Road trips are very much a part of Australia, because Australia is a country for road tripping. How do you discover the country otherwise? You have different options. You have buses, travel, train, but road tripping gives you really the feel of how big the country is, and also traveling by car is really an adventure in Australia. I think it gives you this feeling of how the country is. You can do it even for a short trip. You don't have to plan a long trip or thousands of kilometers or whatever miles. So you just plan a small trip around the city, starting from one city and going, the rural areas or coastal area. So, but I would definitely split, Australia into two and say which part do I want to focus on. And if you decide to go to the western part, then from Perth, building your itinerary just around Perth, or just going to the north and build your itinerary in the north, in the outback.
I hired a car actually when I was in Australia. I was by myself and I hired a car and I drove all the way around Tasmania. And Tasmania is well connected anyway with buses, but it was just, for me, it was just freedom, because you could stop where you wanted to stop, and there was lavender fields, Wineglass Bay, and then you could just stop for something to eat and then get back in the car and then go driving again. And it was just so safe, and it was great just having the freedom, just driving on the road in Australia. And there's not many vehicles on some of the routes as well as there, so it's easy to drive there.
Yes, it is easy. The only thing that you have to consider with driving in Australia, that don't drive when it's dark, because it's very dangerous in Australia driving at not daylight. So because of wildlife crossing the roads, and it's really dark outside in Australia in the rural areas, and I wouldn't drive. It's really dangerous. So there is so much wildlife crossing the roads, and you have to be careful. So I never do this. Well, I did it once, and I say I regret it. I said never again. But there are many accidents, and especially international travelers, they underestimate this, and they think, oh, I can do it, why not? And then they realize that it's not really worth doing it. You just have to drive daylight to be safe and also to enjoy, because you won't enjoy driving at night, and you're just training yourself. It's so much so much effort, because you have to be careful where you're going. Roads are really difficult sometimes in Australia, so doesn't bring much. So I think you should enjoy Australia daylight. You're road tripping, but daylight.
So your advice is hire a car during the day.
Yeah.
Perfect. This brings us nicely onto your book, actually, which is called your Australia Itinerary. So can you tell us a bit more about that? What was the idea behind it and who it's tailored to?
Yes, your Australia Itinerary is my book. The idea behind it is that I wanted to provide female solo travelers, and especially independent travelers, with a guide, a comprehensive guide, but a practical guide. It's not meant to be an inspirational book, because inspiration can be found everywhere in internet, also on my Rocket Travel blog and website. But it was meant to be really a practical guide that you can use, and within a few hours you have a clear picture on how to prepare for your trip, but also what choices, which destination, how do I build my itinerary. So really complete guide to create your trip, Australia trip. So the book is really a comprehensive help to make your itinerary very fast, and without spending hours and hours of internet search and wading through the information on the internet. And that's what's all about.
I think for somebody travelling alone, maybe even for the first time, and they pick Australia, it could be quite overwhelming, the size of the country and the amount of information on the internet. So to have a resource like your book is just perfect to help them narrow it down, and especially if it's tailored for women as well.
The book is mainly divided into 3 sections. The first section is how to, so preparing yourself for the trip, how to plan your itinerary. So it gives you in-depth knowledge of how to deal with what's important for planning a trip to Australia, like timing, how to choose your destination, time of the year, when I'm going, how much time to allocate to each place. And then the second section, you just go from the first to the second section, are the 4 itineraries, and they're complete. They are complete from where, destination, what to do there, how to enjoy the place. And you have also different types of ideas and how to customize this itinerary depending on if you have more time, extra time, if you have little time, or if you have different type of interest, or if you want to combine different types of transportation. So it really gives you a very ample choice of putting together your itinerary as you like, because everyone is different, so it's not meant to be, ready-made itinerary for everyone. It's just, it gives you the choice of putting it together as you like. And then there are the last section is resources, how to use them to plan your itinerary.
Perfect. I definitely recommend Michaela's book, so I'll put a link under this interview to the book. Is there anything else that you'd like to add just as we wrap up the interview?
No, I think we have covered everything. Yes.
That's great. Michaela, thank you so much for joining us today, and I wish you every success with your book.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for your time, and I'm very pleased. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to our Girl About the Globe podcast, making solo travel easier for you. Find everything that you need for your solo travels at girlabouttheglobe.com, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.